bits in your bits around them. So that's kind of, that added to the feel of the record, that it was less guitar-y, and so it contributed to that kind of feel.
So the songs did evolve in the course of the recording process then? You have
oh yeah, far more than on Coming Up, yeah, because the head music, I think, in total took 8 or 9 months to record from start to finish, which is, you know, a long time.
And a lot of the songs we couldn't go and rehearse. Things like Hi-Fi doesn't really make a lot of sense, just kind of jamming that as an idea. It's kind of like, oh, we'll get to that once once we're in the studio. It's one that would evolve in, as a kind of electronic groove in the once all the synth geeks in the studio got there.
Yeah, it's much less sort of development through rehearsal and more kind of faith in the recording process that would develop the songs. You know, something like Hi-Fi, like Neil says, I don't think we ever rehearsed it as a band.
Yeah, and Asbestos was another one that we never sat down and played. It was built from audio of Neil's, and, you know, us jamming along to it. Really.
So I think there was a real desire to sort of like tread new ground for us, you know, to do it in a different way, and I think that's kind of quite commendable, not to just say, oh, let's make another album like, you know, let's write more songs like the Drowners or Trash, you know, let's try and take it somewhere else. And I think that's kind of quite a commendable thing to have done, really, quite brave. You know, whether it works or not is another matter. You know, I think, you know, personally think that the album is half of a great album. I think if it had been edited a bit better, it would have been a fantastic record. But we just put too much stuff on it, and that was just an editing decision.
And who decided that Electricity should be the first single?
That was decided by the record company. Pretty much. That was one of those things where.
Would you have had a different choice?
I would have chosen Can't Get Enough as the first single.
It seems obvious to me. But
that's what I wanted as the first single, and I sort of listening to it now, I still regret that. It's such a perfect kind of like energetic little pop punk song, and Electricity for me, I don't you know, the record companies, we put it in the hands of the business there. We let the pluggers and the record company and the managers decide that. We'd made the mistake of digging our heels in with We Are the Pigs on Dogman Star, and I thought, well, we made that mistake, we got that one wrong, let's leave this one to the record company and see what they say. And they wanted Electricity, so
I think they chose it because it's probably that or Everything Will Flow is the two songs which you can kind of put as like a bridge between Coming Up and Head Music. Like everything else on Head Music sounds so different to Coming Up that I think they were a bit worried that, you know, the record companies will always make a safe decision, you know, and the safe decision is kind of like, you know, something that echoes the last album, and Electricity is probably the one track that echoes Coming Up the most.
I think as well, you know, it was a song with a big chorus.
Yeah,
and yeah, exactly, yeah. But something like Can't Get Enough, it's a different sort of way the song sort of dynamically works. It's just a short little kind of like B part rather than the big sing-along chorus. And people have been used to sort of like Trash and Animal Nitrate and stuff like that with those big choruses, and that's what Saul from the record company, I think, always really responded to in our work. And something like Can't Get Enough, he didn't quite understand why it was good. But the proof of the pudding is that, you know, 15 years later we're still playing Can't Get Enough live, but we don't really play Electricity anymore because I think Can't Get Enough is a better song.
And was it the record company policy then, as had happened, begun to happen with Coming Up, where for each single you released there were 2 versions of the single, each with 2 B-sides?
Yes, formatting. You know what happened in the kind of late 90s, you just formatted records to fuck. And so, you know, ended up making, you know, you make an album which had sort of 10, 11, 12 tracks on it, and then you'd release a couple of singles and have to make another 2 albums to promote the singles. It's, you know, inevitably
Head Music has way more B-sides than the actual album.
Yeah, it's, you know, and they're up and down. Some of them are fantastic, and some of them are B-sides. You know, it's impossible to keep quality control when you're as much as before when you're doing that. But it's part of the, you know, the bleak process of marketing. And when you do get caught up in that, I'm not kind of like above that. You know, every band kind of like gets caught up in that machinery.
Do you wish now it hadn't happened though?
No, I don't regret that particularly. I mean, I regret more things than formatting records. You know, formatting records is it's just about getting your records in the charts, you know. Those things are just sort of business decisions. No, I don't really regret them. I think there were some great B-sides from that period. I mean, things like Crackhead is a great B-side. Let Go, I love that. Leaving, beautiful. So I think there was still quality there. And you know, when you look back on the early B-sides, I think there was some B-sides that, you know, things like Dolly and Painted People, you know, they're very forgettable as songs. So it's not like you can apply the process and say, well, before we started formatting we only did good B-sides, because it simply isn't true.
Okay. And why did you use the same design team for the cover as for Coming Up? Was it an attempt to provide continuity, or just like the previous result?
Yeah, it's exactly that. It was, you know, we'd worked with Peter Saville and Nick Knight, and I loved what they did with Coming Up. I loved the sleeve that we did for Sci-Fi Lullabies, which is the B-sides collection. And you know, I had a dialogue with Peter, and it was just a matter of extending that. You know, I really love the head music sleeve. It's one of my favourites, actually. It's not kind of like the fans' favourite at all, but there's something really sort of powerful and kind of sort of like monolithic about the design. I really like.
D minor, C, then E minor. Sorry? D minor, C.